Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of technical analysis on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets, and more specifically, we're going to be doing a little bit of short-term technical analysis, but we're also going to be doing some long-term technical analysis based off of fundamental analysis that we're going to be doing from this news story. As we can see here, this headline reads, Bitcoin will gain more than 80% in valuation throughout 2019. New study explains why. And it's very interesting to see the people in this study repeating many of the sentiments that I've been echoing for months now. So we're going to be talking about not only the short-term technicals on Bitcoin here and this pattern of Bitcoin coming up here, being above an uptrend of support and then breaking bearish out of it. We're going to be talking about where that might be bringing us here over the next 24 hours or so. We're also going to be doing a little bit of longer-term technical analysis and trying to get to the bottom of where Bitcoin is going to be around the end of 2019. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, definitely consider dropping a like, hitting that subscribe button, and smashing the notification bell, guys. It does help out the channel if you do it, and I would be appreciative if you did it. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Bitcoin is currently trading around $3,420 on Coinbase anyway, trading around almost exactly $3,500 on Bitfinex. There's still that discrepancy there that is rather annoying, but it is something that we have to keep an eye out for. The first thing that I want to point out here is the fact that Bitcoin is currently sitting above an uptrend of support. We can see a touch right here, a touch right here, a touch right here, there, and there. We see 5 touches. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Bitcoin has a very well-established uptrend of support at the moment. But over the last couple of months, over the last 2 months or so, Bitcoin has also established a rather strong downtrend of resistance with touches right here, a touch right there, a touch right here more recently. And if we look at the chart here, Bitcoin is actually very close to running into this downtrend of resistance and breaking out of it. And this actually puts us in a consolidation pattern because we have an uptrend of support and a downtrend of resistance. And as you can see, these two lines are going to be crossing sometime tonight around midnight Eastern Standard Time, depending on how you draw your chart. In the next 48 hours or so, depending on how people draw their charts and what chart they're looking at, we're going to see some kind of convergence of this downtrend of resistance and this uptrend of support. And this is rather important, actually, because we've talked about in previous videos about how it is important that Bitcoin breaks bullish out of this long-term descending wedge so that we can start moving in the right direction for the rest of this bear market. This is actually rather important, and the thing that the title was talking about is that I'm worried about Bitcoin actually breaking bearish here for a couple of different reasons, and I'll go ahead and lay those out. The first of which is that the longer-term downtrend of resistance is oftentimes going to be stronger than the short-term uptrend of support. I could speak this morning. A lot of times you will see that the longer-term trend, if you have 2 trend lines and one of them is longer than the other one, a lot of times the longer one is going to be the stronger one. That's a little way you can memorize that. The longer one is going to be the stronger one. And right now, the downtrend of resistance is definitely the longer trend line than this uptrend of support. Now, granted, this uptrend of support is very well established. These 5 touches make this an almost perfectly established uptrend. It's a thing of beauty. It really is. But the other thing that I want to point out is that Bitcoin has gotten in this nasty habit lately of having an uptrend of support, giving it support, as we can see right there, and there. It's had this nasty habit of having an uptrend of support, giving it support, and then breaking bearish out of it. We saw that Bitcoin was in a consolidation pattern right over here. We broke bullish, and then we broke bearish. In a consolidation pattern over here, we broke bullish, then bearish. Traded sideways over here, broke bearish. And right now, it looks like we're actually trading sideways, and we're trading into this downtrend of resistance. And really, guys, I don't know which way this is going to break. We're going to have to see. Bitcoin has made a pattern of breaking bearish below these downtrends, below these uptrends of support. But you also have to keep in mind that sometimes, as soon as a pattern has been well established and formed and everybody realizes that it's a pattern, that pattern is going to reverse, because I've also talked about something called the rule of 3 in markets. A lot of times you'll see something happen 3 times and then the opposite will happen. The market will change directions, and we've seen 1, 2, 3 times Bitcoin has actually broken an uptrend of support. So perhaps this is going to be the other time. I'm not going to make a call on which direction I think this is breaking. You guys have seen my videos in the past. If you haven't, where I've talked about how you should approach consolidation patterns, I'll be very brief in explaining it. It's really not even that important trying to call which direction a consolidation pattern is going to break, and the reason for that is because if you cover yourself properly with a breakout in either direction, then you can make money no matter what and protect yourself no matter what. All you gotta do is have a stop loss or some kind of other stop down here to protect yourself if we break bearish, and then have a buy order up here to protect yourself if we go bullish. Very simple, very easy to trade. Have a stop right here and have a buy order up here. If Bitcoin breaks below this, then whatever Bitcoin you may already have, then you can stop loss it out and you won't have to lose all that valuation. And if we break bullish and you're watching the chart and we have that volume come in to confirm that we've actually seen a breakout, then you can buy in some of that Bitcoin and ride Bitcoin to the upside. That is pretty much the way that you would go about doing that. I'll clear all that off of my chart later. Anyway, we're doing this a little out of order, but I do want to go ahead and do the crypto market recap because there are some important things I want to talk about here. And then we're going to dive into the news story and the longer-term technical analysis. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy that, so stick around for it. Anyway, Bitcoin is currently up around 0.38% over the last 24 hours. If we give it a refresh, we're going to see $5 billion in daily volume. Bitcoin's volume has actually been a lot more healthy after Bitcoin broke $6,000. Bitcoin had entered a state of lethargicness. It was Bitcoin was very lazy up here. Bitcoin had not been doing a whole lot for a couple of months, and it was really just a very boring market. Bitcoin wasn't doing a whole lot, and the volume and the volatility was dead. It really was. And I'm kind of glad in one sense that Bitcoin broke below $3,000 because it actually meant that we see a lot more interesting things happening in the market again, and we see more volume coming into the market, which is actually a very healthy thing for Bitcoin. Because if you were to look at a ratio of volume to price action, we're looking at like a 4 times better ratio of volume to price action right now than we were when Bitcoin was above $6,000. So that's a very good thing that you want to keep an eye out for. One thing that you also want to keep an eye out for, though, is the fact that the majority of the top 10 is in the red today. We see Bitcoin SV all the way through XRP is in the red with the notable exception of Litecoin and Tether. Tether doesn't count. But if we check over here, we're going to see Bitcoin is up 161%. We see PundiX and Metaverse ETP are up over 10% as well. I mean, come on, guys. At least come up with a better name than that. That's like Bitco2N. I don't know what that is. What kind of name is this? What kind of name is that? Anyway, let's keep going. Most of the cryptocurrency market is in the red today. We don't see any double-digit losers. We do see a couple of big gainers, but of course, one of them is obviously an anomaly. 161% rally in a bear market like this is definitely not something that is normal. Anyway, I clicked the back button and went to my YouTube subscription feed because I was doing research before this. Anyway, one thing I want to go ahead and talk about is this news, and I want to talk about this news story because this news story talks about a lot of the things that I've been talking about for a very long time. If you guys have been watching the channel for a while, then you will know that I've been talking about Bitcoin moving into an accumulation phase for the majority of 2019 and moving to the upside, starting to trend upwards sometime around the end of 2019, early part of 2020. I don't necessarily totally agree with their time frames here, but I do agree with their analysis. So let's go ahead and read through this. Despite the persistent crypto winter, a panel of financial market analysts in Australia predicted that Bitcoin will rise over 80% throughout 2019. I think that's a typo, fueled by several short-term catalysts. And this article really does just kind of go over everything I've talked about, and it's good to review these kind of things so we have a good idea of where the market's going, because if we don't have any idea of where the market's going, then we can't reliably trade the market, so that's why we're going to be going over this again. Bitcoin reached its all-time high of almost $20,000 in December of 2017, blah, 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 blah. Bitcoin currently oscillates around $3,500. A new study by finder.co.australia in Australia saw financial markets experts predicting that Bitcoin could rise 84% in 2019. Most of the experts provided their predictions in the range of $7,500 to $9,000. A surge from $3,500 to $9,000 would translate in a 157% rise in valuation in less than 10 months. Experts believe that Bitcoin could rise in its price, could increase its price in the whole of 2019 to reach these targeted predictions. And while I don't necessarily agree with that price target, I don't necessarily agree with Bitcoin going all the way to $9,000 this year. It is very, very possible. I do think that Bitcoin is going to be knocking on at least $6,000 door by the end of the year, depending on how things go, guys. It's hard to make longer-term predictions with this much accuracy, due in large part to just random fluctuations in the market. You're going to have random things happen. Maybe a bear whale comes in, and someone needs to make some art of a bear whale. That'd be pretty funny, or a bull whale. Both of those would be pretty funny. Anyway, you have to be very careful when doing long-term technical analysis, because sometimes you might see for example, a bear whale come in here and crash Bitcoin below $3,000. That could extend the bear market for months longer. We could see something like ICE decides that they don't want to do backed, and backed just goes offline. The Bitcoin ETF gets pulled again. We could see the United States bans Bitcoin. That's always my worst case scenario, extreme example of something bad that could happen to Bitcoin. I don't think it'll happen, of course, but we'd never really truly know until it's already happened. So there's a lot of curveballs that can be thrown. But in general, if things do continue going at about the same pace that they're going right now, and the market remains rather neutral at the moment in the way that it is right now, I think that Bitcoin's going to be trading at least higher than where where it is right now by the end of 2020, and we're going to be moving to the upside and be trying to kick off a bull market sometime by the end of 2019 or in the early part of 2020, and that's really what they're talking about here. The COO of Digital Capital Management, Ben Ritchie, one of the 6 experts, was the most bullish of them all. He predicted that the crypto will end the year close to $9,500. The average prediction of all the other panelists was around $7,000. I would be inclined to agree more with them. I'm not quite as bullish as that. I'd be inclined to say in between $5,000 to $7,000 myself. Ritchie believes that there are 2 major factors to consider in 2019. First, he asked whether virtual currencies will be traded differently compared to the past. One of the second issues he stated was, the second issue is the impact of traditional markets on digital currencies. Will Bitcoin rise if the S&P drops? This is something that we talked about in yesterday's video and something that we're going to be talking about again in an upcoming video. I'm going to be talking about what the potential stock market crash could do to Bitcoin and what will happen if the stock market and the S&P 500 in particular does come down here and break its 200 weekly simple moving average. What happens if the stock market does enter a bear market? What happens if the United States and the rest of the world enters a financial crisis and a recession? These are all major things that can throw that kind of curveball at Bitcoin like I was talking about. It's a very, very important thing for our long-term technical analysis, because while Bitcoin and the stock markets are not terribly correlated, you can bet your bottom dollar if everybody is losing all their money in the stock market and the recession is happening, people are losing valuation in their homes, people are losing their jobs, the typical thing that happens during a recession, it is going to have an impact on the Bitcoin market. Bitcoin is impacted by fundamentals, and that will matter. So you have to be careful about that too. I'm going to just go ahead and skip the rest of that quote because I basically just said what he said. Why experts remain bullish on the long term, and this is where I really start to agree with them. Analysts, investors, and many other commentators remain positive on Bitcoin's long-term trend. I definitely agree with that. The positivity arises from the near-term catalyst that may excite the markets to rise. In the first quarter of 2019, ICE's BACT is expected to launch Bitcoin futures markets in the United States. We've been talking about that since the day that news story broke back in, what was it, September? Is back over here in... It was back in August, actually. It was back in August when that broke. I remember on the chart where it broke. I didn't remember the exact day. But we've been talking about BACT for a long time. It's a very good news story and a very bullish piece of news for Bitcoin. I don't have time to get into it today. If you come to this article, you click this link, then you can probably learn a little bit more about it. Also within the same period, something else we've talked about on the channel, Fidelity is expected to start offering cryptocurrency custody services. Fidelity is a very major player in the traditional finance markets, and them stepping in the space is very, very big also, in the same way that Intercontinental Exchange, that being abbreviated to ICE, stepping into the market is. As we announced earlier, the company expects to launch the crypto custody services in March 2019. These large-scale institutions' activities in a bear market may enhance the investors' confidence in the future of cryptocurrency. All experts on the panel stated that Bitcoin may experience a slow grind with low volatility levels in the months to come. We're really kind of just dragging our heels here. They're talking about a lot of things that I'm not going to get into right now. I do want to go ahead and read this last paragraph, though. Some investors expect institutions to join the crypto sphere by the third quarter of 2019. Currently, institutions remain hesitant due to uncertainties in the asset class itself and regulatory infrastructure. This is something I've been talking about for over a year on this channel, the importance of the infrastructure that the developers in the cryptocurrency space are building, and the regulatory certainty that we're continuing to develop in the United States and the rest of the world as many more governments start to decide how they're going to approach regulating cryptocurrency. That's very important. Billionaire investor Mike Novogratz, you guys have probably heard of him if you're in the cryptocurrency space, said that institutions are not in a hurry to invest in the crypto sector, which I completely agree with, by the way. However, the introduction of more regulated and well-maintained investment vehicles will encourage more large companies and institutions to enter the crypto market. And you may be wondering, why would Mike Novogratz say that they're not in a hurry, and why do I agree with him? The reason I think he's saying that, and the reason that I totally agree with him, is because a lot of businesses out there, guys, if they're a large business, then they're already profitable without Bitcoin. They realize that they can run their business without the cryptocurrency market, without blockchain technology. It's not that cryptocurrency is at the moment anyway coming in to save failing businesses. Now that might be the case in the future, but at the moment it's a technology that a business can adopt. And when you're running a business, there might be 50 different routes you can go to adopt a technology, and cryptocurrency might only be one of them. Bitcoin might only be one of them. Ethereum smart contracts might only be one of them. This is something that you have to keep in mind, is that a business is not just going to adopt Bitcoin or cryptocurrency because it's a good technology. This is something we see throughout history. There are many things that are good technologies that were never adopted or took years, maybe even thousands of years to be adopted, simply because of the politics of the current situation. And if a company doesn't have some kind of major incentive to start adopting cryptocurrency, then they're not necessarily going to do it. One of the reasons that we see many of these financial financial companies, financial institutions like Fidelity, ICE stepping into the space is because they realize that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is going to be a large, growing, emerging, fledgling asset class. It already is, and that it is going to grow in the future, and they want to get their slice of the pie early on and invest in the cryptocurrency space long term. Not necessarily invest in Bitcoin itself, but invest in infrastructure in the space. Many other companies like Amazon, they don't care about that because that's not where they make their money. They don't make their money from markets. So the first institutions that we're going to see step in are institutional investors that already work in traditional finance markets like ICE and Fidelity, and then we're going to start seeing the rest of the space, the rest of the economy start coming online over the next 10 to 20 years or so. It's going to take time. It's going to be slow. It's going to be grueling. Bitcoin is going to have multiple crashes. Bitcoin is going to have multiple bear markets over the next several decades, and it is going to be hard. But if you guys stick around and you stay in this market for the long term, and you have your long-term portfolio, you know how to do technical analysis, you know how to have the right mindset, which is so important, and I don't see enough people talking about, to stay in the market and not give up at the worst possible time. I think right now is one of the worst times you could leave the market. If you're going to leave the market over here and go on a year-long vacation and come back now. Now is a good time to be getting into the market, not leaving the market. If you have all those things down and you're not going to leave and you have the patience, you're going to be rewarded. And these institutions are going to come, and I do think that Bitcoin is going to start moving up by the end of 2019 and on into 2020. Bitcoin is a very bright future, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to read this article to you guys and show you that I'm not the only one saying this. There are plenty of people who know exactly what they're talking about, who have a lot more experience in markets even than I do, that have been in markets for a very long time, that are saying the exact same thing that I am. I'm not the only bullish guy here long term. There is a lot of good things to be looking forward to. There are a lot of good things to be looking forward to in the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency space. Anyway, guys, tell me in the comment section down below what you think of that video. What do you think of this short-term technical analysis? I'm really interested to hear your opinions on that. Do you think Bitcoin's going to reverse the trend and break bullish here? Or do you think it's going to continue the trend and break bearish and move to the downside towards $3,000? I would be interested to hear your opinions in the comment section down below. Like I said, I'm not really going to make a call on that because this can go either way. I see an argument for both sides. But like I said, if you cover yourself the way that I showed you, where you have a buy order right here and you have a stop loss down here, then you should be perfectly fine. Anyway, guys, that is basically going to do it for today's video. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.